All right, welcome back today on Dusty DIY. Today we're going to be putting this 2016 Razor back together. I actually have a little short video clip that I'll put on here of I jacked it up and you can see how much the wheels were moving, so I realized, man, the wheel bearings were really shot. Jacked the Razor up today and realized, wow, look at that. The one on the rear was worse, but the front is just as bad. That looks like the wheel bearings are shot. Yeah, that's not good. That just ruins other parts when that happens, and usually your brakes are completely toast as well. We actually have the wheel bearings pressed in. There's another video we did that. We put on new brake rotors on the front and replaced one of the hubs on the front as well. So we had some messed up parts, mainly because the wheel bearings went out. It's important to grease those every once in a while. We're going to be making another video on how to grease those. Today we're going to put it back together. We've already got it apart. This is a part 2, but it would be just doing it in reverse of what we do. We're going to go ahead and put all the parts back together and hope you enjoy the video. Here we are on the back driver's side of the 2016 Razor. Most of the time, I just got to point this out, I like to spray them down in the car wash or with a high pressure washer before I work on them. This one's still got mud all over it. But going through the muddy conditions, that's what this Razor does, and that's what takes out the wheel bearings. The wheel bearings were completely toast on it. We've replaced the bearings on the all fours. This is the rear hub. This is the hub assembly that goes on the rear, and of course your CV axle and your A-arms. We're going to go ahead and put this one back together right here, and I'll show you how it goes. First of all, normally what I do is I tie wire these out of the way, your brakes. This one had completely worn out the brakes. When the wheel bearing goes out, it causes it to shift and move a lot, and it really just takes out your brakes fast. So we're actually going to be putting brand new brakes on this today. I've got some brand new brake pads here. So we'll do that. We'll start by putting on the brake pads. On these brake calipers here, one thing I've noticed is there's a set screw on the back here that you can take out that actually allows this piston to push down. But most of the time I feel like I can get it on with a screwdriver or just messing with it a little. If you notice, these pistons will push back. You can either get a clamp and compress them a little, or a screwdriver usually works. Now, these brake pads go on just like this. You slide it on one side like that, it wraps around, and usually you can get them on as long as you don't clamp your brakes down while you have the calipers unhooked. They usually go back on fairly decent. So the brake pad faces up on the back one. Of course, it faces down or toward the other pad on the front one. I'm going to go ahead, slide it on the one side, slide it around, and usually, like I said, if you finagle them just a little bit, sometimes I have to get like a little screwdriver, but I think I'm gonna get it just by wiggling a little. Right there, okay. So that's how easy it is to slide the brake pads on there. Like I said, sometimes clamp them with a clamp and squish it down a little, or if you want to take out these set screws, that's your choice. I've never had to take the set screws out very often. All right, this is the castle nut on the end of the CV axle, and just looking at these, they're a little bit dirty, so probably clean them up a little. Take a look at them, make sure they're okay. Not in too bad of shape, just got a little old grease on there, but I don't see any major debris problems, and they're still in pretty good shape. All right, so what I like to do is, one of the next steps, I actually either put a little bit of grease on them, or I'm actually going to put on some anti-seize. It's just basically lubes it up, gives it something to spin on the wheel bearing. If you have problems with water getting in there, you gotta want, it helps with that, all right? So, next thing that goes on here is actually this assembly here. As you can see, there is a big bolt on the bottom, and I just put the bolts back on here just so I don't lose them while the machine is setting. I did replace the bushings on this machine a year ago, and that's something you can definitely do. They have these bushings that go in here. Bushings on this one are not that old. So this is actually going to slide over your CV axle. And probably what I'll do, make sure these bushings don't fall out, and it slides in the bottom A-arm just like this. Okay, sometimes you need a little tap. Line up your bolt hole. You're going to send your bolt on through. I believe these are 18mm bolts. Just like so. Just going to start the nut on there. Then this upper one, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the bolt out. And basically gonna pull your CV axle through a little. And same thing on the top, it just slides through this A-arm area where the bolt goes through, and go ahead and put your nut on. Just gonna start them, I'll come back and tighten these in a minute. I'm just trying to get it together to show you how it works. Now right here is your hub assembly, and I'd like to clean it up right here. And I'm probably gonna put a little anti-seize or grease on this shaft right here. I looked them over really good the other day just to make sure that there's no damage or on them that they would need to be replaced. Like I said, I replaced one of the front ones. It had worn a groove inside the hub area, so it had been driven really worn out. All right, this piece is just gonna slide right over the axle shaft and into the bearing, just like so. All right, then there's usually 1 or 2 nuts that go on the end of the CV axle, and then your castle nut goes on the end right here on your end of your CV axle. All right, and they are, I think, 27mm. Yep. So luckily I have a nice gun to help me out here. Go ahead and spin that on there. Oh yeah. All right, they do have an area for the cotter key, a cotter pin that goes on here. So you want to line that up. You have to back it off just a little so that you can get the cotter pin in. And I'm going to go ahead and bend the cotter pin so that can't come off. All right, once you get your brake pads in here, then you actually just, sometimes you have to compress these, but a lot of times they just slide right back over like that. When I took them off, I actually used a C-clamp to push down on this a little bit right here and compressed them down. You push on the old pads and it kind of pushes them in a little, gives you some room. On these from the factory, they put a drop of blue Loctite on those. So I've actually just put a couple drops on there. I can see there's still a little bit on there. That helps just hold them. These are two 15mm bolts that go on from the back side to hold the caliper on. And most times I can get to those pretty easily with a wobbly socket. If not, I use a wrench on them. Can easily get to those. All right, I went ahead and tightened the 15mm bolt on top of here and this 18mm on the bottom here. Now I got to tighten these two 15s on the calipers, and then I basically put a little, I like to put a little grease on the lug studs, put the wheel back on, or the hub cover right here if you have one. I'm going to go ahead and do the back side on next, and then we'll show you the front. All right, here on the front, it's the same process, reverse, a little bit different. You have upper and lower ball joints. They bolt just slightly different. They slide down in the spindle right here on the top and bottom, and then they have a bolt that goes through that holds the spindle tight to the ball joint, but similar process through the wheel bearing. I've already put some anti-seize on there. And then we have on this side, I've replaced the hub. The hub was worn out down right inside of here. The wheel bearing was so shot it started wearing the back of the hub out where it seats against the hub flat. So I went ahead and put a new hub on here, pressed these lugs in here, and then of course I got a new rotor because of the movement of the wheel. You'll see in the video that it messed it all up. So we got a new hub. We're going to put this together right here really quickly. Basically, here is the spindle, and it slides on the lower ball joint. You can usually slide them on. Got to pull that out. And I'm going to go ahead and slide that down on before I put the CV axle in, just because normally I can get those on pretty easily. After I'll slide it in. Go ahead and put my bolt on there. I'm just going to hand tight everything till I get everything started. It's always a good idea to go ahead and just do it that way till you get all the bolts started at least. Here's my upper ball joint. I got the lower ball joint started, and now I'm going to start the upper. I might have to jack up the bottom of it just a little bit. Put some pressure on the lower so that I have something to push down on. So I'm just gonna ease that up a little bit. I did take the shock off to make it easier. So now I'm going to put the upper ball joint in there. I got it started. Looks like it needs to go down just a little. Get my bolt started here. It went down a little too far. There it goes. It'll slide in there when it's in the right spot. Go ahead and just tighten those a little bit. Right there. All right, next, the hub, put a little anti-seize on it. It's gonna slide in to the ball bearing and onto the CV axle, like so. Next, I put on the washer that goes right there, then the castle nut. And then the cotter pin goes down in. Help keep it from ever loosening up on the castle nut. And of course on the front you have a tie rod end that goes down in right there. I believe most of these bolts are 15 millimeter. This one's 17. Okay, got it started. Then I'm going to actually probably let the jack back down, gain some room, and then the shock goes right back where it goes, right there, and put that bolt on. All right, turn my steering back straight. Now I'm going to go ahead and load up the brake pads just like I did on the rear. Slide them on and slide it over the caliper. 2 15 millimeter bolts, tight everything down. All right, thanks for joining us again today. Getting the wheel bearings on this 2016 RZR, also getting the new brakes put on and getting everything put back together. Hopefully that helps you on your DIY project when you work on your next machine. Please like and subscribe to Dusty DIY. Please leave any comments or questions below. Thanks.